Did you know there is a way to heal faster by breathing even deeper? And it's using the tool, the incredible tool of hyperbaric oxygen. So hyperbaric oxygen as a field, the field of hyperbaric medicine has been around actually for a very long time. It has been used a lot in scuba diving and in wound healing predominantly. And it is continuing to make a bigger and bigger impact on chronic illness. So I think that you should at least understand what it is, which is it's a technique where you breathe in oxygen. So you're getting it into your lungs, but then you're in a pressurized container that will push the oxygen into your plasma. What does that mean? It means that the oxygen is going to places faster and easier than it can just by, let's say, breathing in oxygen on its own, on your own. So if you breathe in oxygen on your own, you'll get more oxygen into your lungs, but not to the depths of the smaller capillaries and areas in the lungs that you may really need it. And the amount that gets in all over your body is minimal. When you do it under pressure, what happens is that the force on your cells leads to the oxygen going places and getting carried places that it has not been able to be carried before. So it will make it to smaller capillaries. This is why especially wound healing has been a huge piece of it, because wounds in general, part of why they don't heal is they can't get the white cells and the anti-inflammatory and the infection healing compounds can't get to those areas, because a lot of times you'll see wounds and spots that maybe don't have as much vasculature, like the toe. That's why a lot of people have wounds in their feet, because it's harder to get that blood and oxygen all the way down there. So the hyperbaric can help that, and there's lots of data and clinical research on wound healing. The other area where we see dramatic responses is in brain trauma. So closed head injuries, acute stroke, different things like that. Hyperoxygenating leads to new neuronal pathways. So the brain can heal by building more connections, bringing in more neurons, and by oxygenating or hyperoxygenating, that whole process moves faster. So how I got exposed to hyperbaric oxygen therapy was through my daughter, who had a pretty bad concussion and when she was in middle school from soccer. And she seemed to get over it. And many of you guys may have had a concussion yourself or had one of your kids playing sports have a concussion. They seem to get over it. But a few years later, I was noticing some changes, little subtle changes in personality and her periods, and just some things were off, and it made me think, wow, I'm learning a lot about the brain. I wonder if that concussion did more damage than we realize. So I researched some of the leaders in brain trauma and took her to the Amen Clinic. And what's really cool about that clinic was they had very specialized scanning technology, and they were able to spot the damage. It was kind of crazy, exactly where the trauma was, what happened to the brain, and it was definitely an area that still needed help. So we go through all of this evaluation, and the recommendation, when I got the call back from the doctor that worked there, they suggested some supplements, things there. Those recommendations were not overly helpful just because I'd studied a lot about the supplements already. But the main thing they recommended was 40 sessions of hyperbaric oxygen. So I researched it, found an area or a location in town, and became friends with the person running that, who now is one of the bigger hyperbaric researchers in the country, Dr. Joe Daturi, who's a good friend. And my daughter took us on her summer break. 1 month she went twice a day, 5 days a week for 1 month. That was a lot, and most people can't do that, but she did, and there was a dramatic improvement in her mood, in her cycles, in her focus, everything. So it made me really question and wonder more about hyperbaric. So what we see is improvement in fatigue, less inflammation, faster recovery from surgery too. Things like plastic surgeries, people healing much quicker, energizing your cells and helping your processing time and focus. And when you get oxygen to places that maybe it's been delayed, it's just like limitless benefits, because I always like to talk about the mitochondria. The mitochondria rely on oxygen to make ATP. So when oxygen's not coming in at the level that we need, we're slowed down in our process of ATP production. So it needs to be combined, obviously, with proper nutrition and gut healing and grounding, all the other things. It's not a one size fits all, like it's just going to be on its own, fix everything. But when you add it, and be careful because it must be a reputable clinic. There's a lot of questions about different chambers that are out there right now in terms of fire risk, in terms of how they're operating the chamber. Hard chambers are safer than the soft ones. And just to let you know about that for a minute, soft chambers are at a lot of kind of facilities, or people may have them in their homes. What you want to always ask is what the pressure is that they get to. So most of the soft chambers go to 1.3, which is very minimal impact. It can help some for sure. More medical grade chambers go up to 2 or even 2.5 pressure. So that's where you see more healing at the higher level, but there's also a little bit more risk. So chambers like that, and we just finally brought one into my office because I was waiting for a seated one that still had high safety, and we just got that in because I wanted to be cautious, and the depth of training that my staff had to go through, pretty significant. And you wear a mask that looks like this one. You'll have the oxygen hooked up to these different little holes here. Chamber looks really nice, like you're in an airplane. So that's unusual, but even a lot of the hard chambers out there, you're on a bed where you could be propped up a little bit. Just make sure you're getting a reputable clinic with all the safety standards met. To heal, you really need 1.5 or higher. 1.3 home chambers, or they can help some, but it is a dramatic difference. And you'll see some level of detoxification when you first get in, because when oxygen's going places it's never been, you're going to have some symptoms. You're going to detox. You're going to kill off infections. So you may be tired the first few times you do it. And the biggest constraint I see to its utilization is time and money, because the sessions are somewhat expensive. They average probably around a couple $100 a session. There's 60 to 90 minutes. So the time is an issue. And most of the time you'll hear 10, 20, 40, or 60 sessions, and they want them bundled as close together as you can get it. That's what the published studies are showing. But there's been everything from increasing telomere length, so like staging, to obviously wound healing, to faster recovery from surgery, to back cognition, stuff like that. So many benefits, cardiac benefits, blood pressure benefits. They're limitless, the number of benefits and diseases that hyperbaric can help. So if it's something that you haven't tried yet, I think if you take it seriously, you find a reputable clinic, you understand there'll be a time and financial commitment at the outset. But once you do that, those 20, 40, 60 sessions, then it may be every once a month or every few months you could do a touch up, and you shouldn't have to do that intense, because a lot of the cleanup will happen in that initial phase. So I'm a fan. I've now been in 5 times because we just got it, and I wouldn't go in a lay down one. I can tell you, definite focus, mood gets elevated, energy in terms of my exercise capacity, which is what I'm always looking for too, is definitely improved. So check it out. If you want something to speed up your healing, hyperbaric is definitely a winner.